Hello everybody and welcome to this lovely spring day. It's so peaceful. Peace and tranquility only shattered by the sound of the distant whining of a drone and the attention of the dog. But today I thought what we'd do is leap into the shed and explore a really modern string sound. Now, this is a brand new library from a tiny producer and it's only going to cost you £39. Can you run to that? Let's dive right in. Right, well I definitely am going to cast off the sunglasses of doubt, but I will keep on the baseball cap of good value because I think this is an absolute bargain and it's just really nice to work with. But just before we move on, if you have teenage children, you really want to know how to annoy them, that's all you have to do and you will get massive theatrical eye roll and stuff like that. Anyway, let's just put that down for the moment. Now, the library in question comes from a chap called Ben Osterhouse, and we're going to have a chat with him in a bit to find out how he came up with all this, because he just seems like an ordinary bloke and a musician, and he's created this really, really good library called Sospiro Strings. And it does two things. The thing it does, I think, which is really different, is it's got this small chamber sound with very little or no vibrato, and that's such a modern sound. Listen. And he does all these swells, which are... Isn't that lovely? Those are the swells, and you can have them longer or shorter. You just turn them up like that. And you can have the full strings, or you can have, each individual articulation. And you can have sustains as well. So if we just try the sustains, you can have cold, warm, or full. And isn't that lovely? That is a very modern sound. People are often asking, how do I get that sort of Nordic noir kind of sound? This is it, isn't it? Or warm. Oh, I feel all warm and fuzzy all over. Oh. You've been away so long. But every day I thought about you. And I'm just delighted to be here with you. The children. It's just warm. When it says warm, it means warm. Cold. Where did you find the body? It was in the middle of the woods. So it does what it says on the tin. And you can have doubled, so it sounds a bit fuller, or you can have full, whatever. So it's a big warm sound. And I just really like it. And I thought, let's have a go writing something. And at the same time, when we're writing, what I'm going to be talking about is the way in which you can use ensemble strings, particularly if you're not classically trained composer, in order, a way of approaching this that makes it sound more string-like and less block chordy, okay? So we're going to give you some tips to improve your string writing and look at this orchestra. But first, let's have a chat with Ben. Okay, Ben, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. How long have you been making Contact libraries?
Let's see. I got Contact the Black Friday sale before last Thanksgiving. Yeah, and then for my DMA project, my DMA thesis, I needed a topic, and I had already put a bunch of work into, doing this type of stuff. And then, I did that for my thesis, and that was cello textures and string flow were part of that.
Wow. So because they're technically really quite complicated. Do you do a lot of scripting and coding yourself as well as being a musician?
Yeah, Contact scripting was kind of my first foray into working with codes. It was a lot to learn, but really, really interesting to start to learn. So
So what was the motivation behind Sospiro, which is the main library I've been looking at, today? It's got a really sort of gloriously sort of unique sound to it. What were you trying to achieve?
Just in general, with the libraries, I like the idea of finding something that you know how to do well, and that you know, something that you really like to do on your instrument, and just capturing that. And with Sospiro, I was trying to just capture really smooth, clean, expressive bow changes at the frog.
I really like the way you've got the sort of the cold and the warm, and the vibrato and the non-vibrato. The non-vibrato just sounds absolutely glorious. So what instruments do you play yourself? Are you just I say just a cellist? Because you've obviously got violin, viola, cello and bass in there. Did you do them all, or did you get other people in to play as well?
Yeah, I'm primarily a cellist. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. I mean, I know lots of people who could probably do a really good job, and it would sound good, but I don't know, if you hold a violin like a cello, I mean, I can get a pretty good sound, especially since there's only one note at a time. So, I mean, it's kind of fun, actually. So I did record all the other ones.
Wow. So this is actually, it's a sort of little chamber ensemble made up entirely of you.
Yes.
Wow. That's fantastic. What I was really struck by was a lot of people have been trying. I first found you through your viola da gamba, because I was trying to find a sound which is that kind of real sort of still, haunting, Nordic sort of noir type sound. And that was perfect. And I was talking to a good friend a couple of days ago, and he said, "Oh, have you heard this Ben Osterhouse library?" And I said, "I've got another one." So as soon as people start talking, if you do something good and different, you obviously found a way of capturing a particular spirit of the moment. And it's really, really nice to find a guy in his apartment who's able to turn out a world-class sample library. There's just so much talent and so much diversity out there. It's really good. It's not just down to a few big companies.
Yeah, I mean, these days with technology, I mean, the barrier is so low for entry in terms of just being able to, do whatever you want. So it's pretty cool.
Exactly. So people coming to your libraries, what advice would you give them before they sort of just jump in?
Well, the original idea behind making the libraries was, I looked at, sample libraries out there and thought, wow, this is really cool, but there is more you could do. I mean, especially, playing these instruments, like, what about an accent that's like this, or an accent like that's like that? And so the idea is have your own sounds that you already have, and then figure out how to, like, I wanted my libraries to be able to augment other ones that are already out there. So, like, kind of think about, like, how can you use the sounds that I've made to add to your own stuff, your own sample libraries.
Would you recommend other people to get stuck into trying to make their own contact lights? I mean, you obviously did this as a thesis, so this was quite a significant body of work for you, but it is obviously doable for people to just start from scratch, pick up the manual, get some advice on forums, and turn out something great.
Yeah, that's something that I've thought about a lot, is like, you would think that this type of thing would be really boring to do, sample development, like, what, you're going to record every single note? And then that's just really tedious. Like, why would anybody want to subject themselves to something like that? But it's really not boring, because, I mean, it's kind of like an etude where you're trying to focus on one particular thing and make it as good as it can possibly be. And it's really good for your playing, and really good for your just overall exploration of sound. And I feel like if more people that I knew, like people who are really, really good instrumentalists, if they just tried this, like, it would be really good, because there's something about, like, when you're doing all of the things, you have so much flexibility, and you can just iterate as much as you want, kind of go around and meander around and find all kinds of things that you wouldn't be able to if it was like all this back and forth between multiple people. So
right, okay, so let's get stuck in and have a look at Ben's creation and see what we can do with it. Here we go. Here's Sospiro. So as I was saying, you can have swells or you can have sustains. And the swells, you can determine how many bars the swell lasts for. I love those bow changes. He makes a big thing of the bow changes, and it just sounds gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. So let's start what I want to talk to you about actually, while I'm doing this, while we're putting it through its paces, the whole business of sort of improvising in string parts is a bit of an art, and it's to do with, and I'm going to sort of talk you through the thought process and some of the theory behind it, which might help you, try and work that into your own way of writing. When you approach improvising string parts on a keyboard, I would try and avoid just going for that basic triad. You could do it, it sounds fine, but as you move around, if this chord is always in the same shape, it doesn't sound, it just sounds like a block. It sounds wodgy. You're not hearing any of those kind of twirling, swirling, interesting inner voices moving about, which is what real string writing is all about. So if you've got, if you're thinking, although you're playing one keyboard, you're playing 5 instruments: bass, cello, viola, and 2 lots of violin. So each of those, in a real string band, there's a really good string writing, or any other writing, there's this thing called voice leading. Voice leading is really important, because what it means is that when you play these parts, each one of these is like a little tune. So the viola's part is a tune all to itself, and it has to make sense going left to right, not just in blocks of chords. So that voice leading thing changes everything. And if each of these parts sounds like a piece of music in itself, rather than just being a worker bee as part of a triad, it just kind of, that sounds nice. Now, you can do it the hard way. Did I say the hard way? I meant the proper way. I mean, this is a sort of bit of a workaround cheaty thing I'm telling you here. You go to it and sit down with a piece of paper and you work it out, or you do it in Sibelius or Dorico or whatever, and all that's great, and that's a good way of doing it. But I just think when I start writing, I just like to improvise straight onto the keyboard, and if I can do that in a way that is more like a string band, so much the better. So okay, so here we go. So let's do that chord progression, but try and work it out differently. You see, what you can do, firstly, how do you avoid the triad? Well, you can revoice this chord. That nobody says that the notes have to be in the order C, E, G. You can start with C, the bottom there, and then you can just have C and E. You can have those 2 there, or my particular favourite, I often start with this one. So you've got your cellos there, your violas there, and your two violins there. So it's a 5th in the left hand and a 3rd in the right. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Another favourite voicing, if you want something a bit more expansive, so that's sort of out of Africa. Oh, look, it's the plains of Africa with lots of gazelles and all this kind of thing, is this one. So you start with your bass note there, then you add a 5th, then you go a 10th. Sorry, going to born free. No, anyway, so look, that is good. I use that a lot. But you want to avoid keeping the same voicing, same chord shape, one chord after another. It's fine, but it's not. So what I'm going to try and encourage you to do, okay, is to use what are called inversions. Inversions, okay, there's a normal triad of C major with C in the bass, yeah? Who says you always have to have C in the bass? Who says? You? No, you're wrong. You don't have to have C in the bass. You can use any chord note in the bass. So let's try the 3rd. Let's try put the E in the bass. You still got a chord of C. It's just different. How do you want your eggs? I'll have them over easy, please, or known as first inversion. If you put the 3rd in the bass, it's a first inversion. If you put the 5th in the bass, it's called a second inversion. But don't worry about that. In other words, okay, let's go back to our chord progression of 1, 5, 6, 4. How are we going to do this more interestingly? So we're going to start with this chord. Then, rather than go down to the G, I'm going to move this C down to the B. And now I'm going to go to a different chord shape. We can have an octave. So that's back to where we started. That's an A minor chord with an A there. And now this is going to walk down to the F. And now we can go to this big open octave and a 5th. Do you see? And the more you do this, the quicker your brain will get, so that eventually it's a bit like driving a car and you don't constantly think, where am I going to next? Did I forget to mention that this is the kind of thing which we talk about a bit in How to Write Music, which is a course which I made.
How to Write Music is my online course that takes you through every step of the process. How to get going, chord progressions, tune writing, developing and arranging your music, 6 hours of exclusive video tutorials, a course text packed with tips, and a supportive online community. Get more out of your music and sign up today.
So it's, oh, what have I got going on here? Let's turn on the smart releases. I had those smart releases on. I want to turn up the, where's the, hang on, there's a control here somewhere. Release, there we go. That's better. You have a lot of control in this instrument. Doesn't that sound nice though? Do you see? And because it's you can hear the individual instruments, but it's an ensemble. And it does what it says on it. It's just beautiful. Now, one of the things I have tried in this instrument is this. Look, I've got 2 loaded up. There's Sospiro strings set to sustains. Let us go down the page. And there's another one set to swells. So what I'm doing is, let's turn this one up a bit. I'm laying one on top of the other. So you get the warm swell at the beginning and then the sustain. Oh, I like that. I'm very fond of that. Have you noticed something, by the way? Yes, you have. 1 or 2 of you have. Okay. I'm filming this the day after the first bit. Why? Partly because I screwed up the sound and it was all distorting a bit, and it's now not. Secondly, I was sitting here and I looked out the window and thought, bloody hell, there's a turtle dove. Now, turtle dove, for those of you in Europe going, yeah, we see them all the time. Over here, it's not super rare. It's not, drop everything, drive to the other end of the country. It's, that's what birds would do. Anyway, turtle dove. So I grab my camera and I run outside to take a picture of it, and I tear my shirt. You see, basic continuity error. Did you spot it? Anyway, it's a good thing, because actually I'm feeling more creative today, so I'm writing a more interesting chord progression. 1, 5, 6, 4. I wouldn't be surprised if it catches on. Okay, so look, let's just sort of get into this a bit. If I'm going to write something, well, I'm not really going to write something. We're going to... Oh, that click, I hate that click. Okay, let's talk you through this. So I'm playing a C chord. I decide I'm going to stay on the C, but I'm going to raise the root to the E, so it goes to a first inversion. Then I'm going to try dropping into an A minor chord, but by keeping the G there, it turns it into an A minor 7. And now I'm going to go to G, but I'm going to keep the C there. It's called a suspended chord. That's probably a title for another video. And you can resolve down to there. Now, at which point I can try something really wacky, like going to an E major. Now, so I'm sitting there, I've resolved my... And rather than go to a logical chord, I decide to go to E major, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense here. But I was going to walk it up. like that. So I was going to take the bass from the G to the G sharp, and I thought, oh, G sharp is the middle of, it's the third of E major. So I could go to E instead. So I'm going. Then back to A minor, sus2. Sus2 means it's a suspension. As I say, this really is a subject for another video because there's quite a lot to say about suspensions because they are luscious. Suspensions are what puts the yearn in yearning. That click drives me mad. Anyway. So once you've written your piece like this, okay, that sounds all right. You want to start making it sound more realistic by splitting it out into all the different parts. Now, some DAWs will have a function called explode or something like that, and it just goes, okay, I'll take all these parts and put them. It sort of works. It doesn't always work very well. So what I tend to do is when I open up this, what I'm looking at is this top line. Is violin 1. So either I look at it and play it in again, or more often than not, I just copy it across and then I delete the bits underneath. So there I have a violin 1 part like that. So I start with the ensemble string and then I put a violin part on, then I'll put a cello and bass part on, and then if I have time, I don't always, sorry viola players and second violin players, I really am sorry, I honestly, I then go and play their parts in, because if every line is played in as though some dedicated musician is actually playing it, it sounds a hell of a lot better. Okay, you may think I'm obsessed with birds. Come with me just for a second. Reed warbler. What the reed warbler thinks it's doing in my bamboo is anybody's guess. It is a very confused reed warbler. So it's nice to know that human beings aren't the only ones who get confused. That was a really unnecessary little diversion, but there we go. Right, where were we? So we're splitting stuff out. Now, the Sospiro violins and things like that are absolutely lovely. They don't do legato, but that's, something. Okay, I feel inspired to do something with this. So this is just the Sospiro violin. It's on cold. Yeah. So here it is. Sustain, cold, non-vib. Let's turn the release up a bit. I'm going to turn the click off because it annoys me so much. Open fifths. I'm going to walk the top note up to the 7th. Down to the 6th. Down to F. Back to the G. Now something else is going to happen in another part. Now I'm going to do this whole thing again an octave down, except that the bottom won't be off. I'm going to do something else actually. If you're playing a violin, it's really good to know that that is the lowest note of violin. Because if you go, where's my sample gone? It's not your sample. It's violins, that's where they start. G below middle C, Anyway, now, I'm not really going to go into, there's a couple of other libraries, there's lots of other libraries he does, but cello texture sounds fantastic, listen. These are the longs. so quiet. Oh, I'm loving this. So I'm just going to use it like a drone. You can imagine a frosty landscape. A lone car is driving down a snow-swept road. The crackle of the police radio goes inside the car. The determined look on the face of the detective, going to examine a frozen body. I always end up with... Have you noticed when I make up stories spontaneously, how often I go on about frozen bodies? And things like that. It's a worry. And at the trial, they referred back to his YouTube video where he made fun of the crime of which he now stands accused. No, not really. This is English bass. Oh, put that in there. Slam dunk. High five, Ben. That sounds absolutely bloody gorgeous. I mean the sample of it. It just needs to be, you know, a good sample can be this simple. Oh. And if you stick to open fifths and octaves and suspensions, you avoid committing yourself to major or minor. There's another video which we need to go into. Let's raise that to a G. And going back to a C in a minute. You know, it's sort of a little soundtrack all by itself, and we haven't done very much, have we? Oh, I do like this stuff. I think this is really, really good. So look, I hope you found... I think I'm sort of done, really. I think we've gone through enough of this for the time being. So look, what fun. I absolutely love Ben's stuff. I think it's really, really good. And highly recommend you go and check him out. You can find it. There's links to it all underneath. But the fact that he did this... he started doing libraries as part of his PhD project, as a thesis. It's pretty amazing, having never coded before. And now he's turning out this really complicated stuff. So if you're an A-list Hollywood composer and you want somebody to do a bespoke library for you, people don't do that anymore, do they? But it's like when you go to a restaurant, you still go like this if you want the bill, or I do. And people go, oh yeah. How long is it going to be before people just go, oh, right, maybe they do. Actually, I do that. Anyway, so off topic. I'm going back out to see if my reed wobble is still there. But I'm going to leave you to go off and check out his stuff and to try some of these ideas with your own libraries. And we're going to be back very, very soon. If you're brand new to this channel, hello, welcome. Bit late for me to say that, but can I suggest you do the subscribey thing and click the little ding ding bell thing, because then you'll get notified, because sometimes we do exciting live events and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, what have you got to lose? Hello, it's free and fun. So anyway, welcome along for the ride. Tell your friends, and I'll be back very soon. See you soon.